Welcome to 6 Week Shift, a lifestyle upgrade program designed by me, Scott Riley, the founder of Causeway Living. The aim of this program is to help you master your habits and transform your life. And most people are in need of a transformation, suffering from anxiety, stress, or just feeling lost and lacking a sense of purpose. Even those who do have a sense of purpose often don't really know how to get there, and I believe that that's down to the state of their nervous system. Humans developed an autonomic nervous system with two branches: the sympathetic nervous system, which is thought of as the fight or flight state, and the parasympathetic nervous system, which is thought of as the rest and digest state. In terms of evolution, whenever a caveman or cavewoman version of us was outside of the cave, we would generally be in the sympathetic nervous system, preparing to fight or flee from a wild animal or the neighbouring tribe. Whenever we were back in the cave, we would go into a parasympathetic rest and digest state to eat, sleep, socialise and chill out. This has been the same for about 200 to 300,000 years. Humans are anatomically the same over that whole span of time. You could take someone from 200,000 years ago, bring them to the future, dress them like this, and you wouldn't really know any big difference. The problem with that is that 200,000-year-old Scott and 32-year-old Scott have very different problems in life. The caveman version of me would have been attacked by large animals or the neighbouring tribe and actually had to fight or flee. 21st century me faces problems like bills, emails, traffic, and that same response in the body is triggered, but they don't necessitate fighting or fleeing. So we're left to stew in stress chemicals and ruminate on things that we don't actually have the chance to action upon. Because of this chronic stress and people being constantly triggered into a fight or flight state that they don't actually have any physical need to do anything about, I'm more surprised if a 21st century person doesn't have some kind of physical or mental illness as a result of this. I believe that the rheumatoid arthritis that I suffered from earlier in life was a result of chronic stress over years and years. Equally, I believe that getting my health back, and more importantly, maintaining good health for years and years as well, comes as a result of learning how to spend more time in the parasympathetic rest and digest part of the nervous system. I've learned any number of ways to do this over the last 6 years, and over the next 6 weeks, I'm going to be helping you develop a simple high performance habit in the 6 pillars of health, all aiming to help you balance the state of your nervous system. From a place of having a more balanced nervous system, I believe you're less likely to have ruminating thoughts, and it'll be easier to hear your intuition and your truest voice to get a greater sense of what your purpose is and find something meaningful to direct your life towards. Over the next 6 weeks, there's also going to be a journaling practice to help you maintain focus on a bigger and more meaningful life as the reason to why you're investing the time to develop these habits. You'll get some support in that by matching up with an accountability buddy in the Causeway Academy private Facebook group. And by the end of the 6 weeks, you'll have this brand new toolkit of habits to go forward and move towards your purpose, creating a bigger, more meaningful life, taking small steps to giant living. It really is as simple as that. But we're going to break this down in the introduction video and move on from there. To get started with 6 Week Shift, all you'll need is a pen and a notepad or journal or something to write in, plus some way of making digital communication to stay in contact with your accountability buddy, which I'll explain in a moment, and to access the weekly email. Each week you'll receive an email with a link and a password to access that week's content. You'll get a video that details out that week's challenge with tips, advice, and the science explaining why it's worthwhile. You'll also receive a PDF which gives you an overview of that week's challenges, support, and focus, and I highly recommend you print that out, especially if you're using your own blank journal or notepad rather than a Causeway Living one. I'll also include some suggested further reading for anyone who wants to go deeper, but that won't be a necessity to complete the course. The weekly video you receive is a key part of 6 Week Shift. Create the time and space to check that out where you can pay full attention and not be disturbed. You'll be asked to write a few things down, so have your journal handy, and there'll be a short guided meditation and visualization to get focus on your why for doing the course, investing time to develop new habits, moving towards a bigger and more meaningful life. The video will also detail out the weekly challenge and explain and offer tips on how to integrate that into your routine and why it's worth spending the time to do so. The challenge each week focuses on a different one of the 6 pillars of health. 6 things that you have to do each and every day anyway. Drink, eat, sleep, breathe, move, and think. So if we have to do those things every day anyway, we may as well look at developing good habits in those areas. Habits that can help us generate more energy and positive momentum towards creating better opportunities for ourselves and being the best version of ourselves to make the most of those opportunities whenever they arrive. I recommend that you make that week's challenge your highest priority each day. If you get to the end of the day with nothing else done but that day's challenge, that's not so bad. Ideally, you'll continue on the challenges from the previous weeks as the course progresses, but if that isn't possible, just focus on that week's challenge. To help you stick to this, you'll get support from an accountability buddy. This is another huge part of 6-week shift. It can be a friend or a partner, but it's much better if you get someone from the Causeway Academy private Facebook group, which you'll have access to as part of the course. Connecting with like-minded others is a central part of the Causeway living philosophy, so put a post in the Causeway Academy private Facebook group and reach out for an accountability buddy. It's ideal if you're both doing 6-week shift as well, because you may be able to offer each other tips and advice and support each other along the way. I'm very aware that it may seem repetitive to text someone each day just to let them know if you managed the challenge or not, but it can literally be a short text in the matter of a few seconds. Those few seconds each day can make the difference between you completing the course and making the shift that you're looking for or not. The final key part of the course left to talk about is the daily journaling practice, first thing in the morning and last thing before bed. If you already have a daily journaling practice and want to keep that, or if you prefer to freestyle write rather than using the suggested topics, that's fine, but I'd highly recommend at the beginning of the day writing down the small steps that you're taking that day towards the bigger vision that you have for your life, giant living. Write out what your version of giant living would look like for you and feel into that. Imagine what it would be like from all of the senses. Who are you with? What are you doing? Where are you and what do you look like? What do you feel like in your body? You'll gain a lot more out of this practice than just writing it if you take just a little bit of time to feel what it would be like with all of your senses. Again, it may seem repetitive to do this on a daily basis, but it's extremely worthwhile. You're programming your future. I'll include more information on the science of visualization in the additional resources for anyone who wants to understand this practice on a deeper level and discover the highest level performers who are using this practice to great effect. I'm also going to throw in a bonus challenge each week for those who have the time and dedication to accelerate progress towards their version of giant living even faster. It's not a mandatory part of the course, but I strongly recommend it if you can make the time. And as for making time, none of the challenges that I'll ask you to do take more than 30 minutes, so you'll really have to stretch hard to make a good excuse as to why you didn't have the time to do the challenge that day. If you do legitimately feel like you're struggling for time, consider going on a low media diet. I don't mean diet in terms of what you're eating, but in terms of what you're consuming on social media, TV, YouTube, movies. How much of the media and content you're consuming is actually moving you towards your vision of a bigger and more meaningful life? There's nothing wrong with consuming media in moderation, and sometimes there's a huge amount of value in story. But over the next 6 weeks of the course, I recommend making more time for yourself to do the challenges and even the bonus ones by going on a low media diet. However, with all of that said, if you do end up struggling for time or go a day or even 2 without checking in with your accountability buddy or doing the challenge, it's not the end of the world. This is a marathon, not a sprint. It's almost more important what happens after the end of the course and integrating these challenges than the 6 weeks themselves. So if you miss a few days, just pick up from the next day and carry on. Do aim for 100% over the next 6 weeks though, rather than shooting for 80% and ending up at more like 60%. Beyond the end of the course, if you're living what you've learned 80% of the time, that's amazing. And it's even a good thing to break your routine every now and again. You'll probably find that you appreciate it even more when you get back to it. And that's all there is to it. Pretty simple, right? Simple though doesn't always mean easy. So as a quick recap, remember that your priority each day is to complete the challenge for that week. Check in with your accountability buddy for support and maintain your focus on why you're even doing the course in the first place and what you're moving towards with a daily journaling practice. You can do that with a 6-week shift Causeway Living Journal, where helpfully all of the journaling topics are laid out for you. Or if you're using your own blank journal, I would highly recommend that you print out the weekly PDF and keep it in there as well. It has all of the same information that would be in the Causeway Living Journal. Keep your journal to hand before you go on and watch the week 1 video and get started properly. And I'll look forward to speaking to you soon in the Causeway Academy Facebook group. Good luck for the rest of week 1 and the rest of the course.